find what you're passionate about, whether it's real estate, whether it's computer programming, whatever your passion is, that's what you need to do. So find something you're passionate about and get people to pay you to fulfill that passion or to do that passion, right? But definitely create a vehicle that allow you to enjoy life right before it's too late.
Welcome, everyone, to the Road Less Traveled Show. This is a show about people who were successful in a previous career and left that career to go down a different path. I'm your co-host, Richard Coyne.
And I'm your co-host, Bill Zahller.
On today's show, we have Hutch the Marine Investor. Hutch, we're so glad you're with us. Thanks for joining today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you this morning.
Thanks, Hutch, for being on the Road Less Traveled Show. We appreciate it.
Yes,
well, can
sir.
you tell us a little bit about your background?
Oh man, that can go deep. You don't get a short answer with Hutch, right? So, born and raised in Jamaica, and came to the States back in 1998. I realized very early that, for a young man in New York that didn't really have, or parents didn't really have the financial stability or the financial structure to be able to pay for my education. And right, I had to work in, probably a couple of jobs to be able to send myself to college, right? Because I value higher education. I just graduated from high school, so my dad talked to me about the different branches of service, and the Marine Corps is the one that really spoke to me. I grew up with a lot of discipline, right? And I really wanted to continue that on that path. Now, little did I know that I have been going on this journey for a very long time. It was back when I was in the third grade. I read what's called The Children's Own. And there was a unique story they were doing a hometown story about this Jamaican guy who was in the Navy, and he was on a ship working on an aircraft. And at that point in third grade, living in Jamaica, I made a decision that if I ever go to the States, I want to join the military and I want to work on aircrafts. So when I got accepted into the delayed entry program, I told my recruiter, look, if I don't have something in aviation, I am not leaving my house. Right. Mm-hmm. And that brought me, it got me a job in aviation. That brought me to Hawaii. And I met my beautiful wife, Athena, there. We've been married for 20 years, going on 21 years now, have 3 beautiful children. And what that does for me, that helps me to realize, look, life is not about you. It's about what you can leave in your children for the future to be able to increase or improve the Hutchinson bloodline.
Oh, that's great. Well, speaking of that, as you're talking about the future, what have you came to the country, you went in the Marine Corps, you've been in there, you're currently still in the Marines, I understand?
Yes, I'm still active duty. I am a E9, a master gunnery sergeant. So there is no E10. So I'm kind of at the end of this career path right now. So I'm looking at about another 24 months, and then I will transition from being on active duty, because once a Marine, always a Marine. There's no, you don't stop being a Marine, right? You transition to maybe a different career field.
Right. And what does that tradition look like for you? What's your path you're moving toward?
Right. So typically, what my friends do, to each their own, right? Not all of them, but most of them, they continue on a path of what they've learned over the past 20 plus years, right? For myself, which would be in aviation. I work on a CH-53 Delta and Echo helicopter. Now I'm the maintenance chief for a Uris and Cobras squadron, right? So typically what we would do, we would go over to maybe a contracting job, a defense contractor job, or a private contractor job, and transfer those skills that we've learned over 20 years. But for me, I want a little more flexibility of time, right? And I got exposed to real estate very, very early in my career. My dad was listening to those Carlton Sheets cassette. I'm pretty sure you two gentlemen can relate. And he was sharing all that information with me, and I was soaking him up. But early in my life, I tell my kids and I tell my Marines as well, the things that you do, you will not execute until it becomes important to you. So needless to say, my dad was giving me all this information, but I did nothing with it in my earlier life. It was not until 2005 that I purchased my first investment property, which was a condo out in Hawaii. And And it was, after that, it's just a gradual path from, a condo to a single family home, live and flip, to where we start flipping properties, and with the vision of transitioning to multifamily space, which is where we are right now. So the career field for me after retirement is a full-time syndication until we're able to get on a path for a full-time passive investor.
Oh, that's great. That's a great story. Yeah.
Excellent. So Hutch, as you think back to so again, you're still active. You're really kind of working two jobs now. So you're doing your Marine job, which thank you for your service. That's fantastic. We certainly appreciate that. And then absolutely. And then secondarily, you're working in the investing field. You're doing all kinds of different investments, and you're doing apartments now, you said?
Correct. Yes.
Excellent. Good. So as you think to your Marine days, is there a humorous story, something funny you can share with us that happened to you along the way?
Ooh. Now, so one of the things that I really want to talk about, it's kind of funny, but at the same time, it's such a rewarding feeling, right? I was stationed in Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii. This is probably, if you work on this flight line, you never ever want to leave the Marine Corps, because just imagine this, right? We do what's called FOD walk every single morning. Right. What we're doing is walking the flight line, looking for objects that can cause damage to aircraft. We call it foreign object debris, right? That can cause foreign object damage. But this picture walking on the flight line, you get to watch the sunrise. As you look off, but as you look directly to your left, right, you see a glossy bay with the koalas, the Hawaiian mountains, right, and the clouds are right below the peak, and the sun hitting the peak of the koalas. It's one of it's absolutely beautiful, right? Now, the reason why I bring that up is whenever we have somebody that have great success, for example, they become a hack, or a pilot, or a qualified crew chief, and potentially CDI, or their last flight before they leave the squadron, we would capture them, and we would all drag them and throw them in the bay. So we all get wet in our coveralls, camis, and it was just such a rewarding feeling of being able to throw somebody in that water, or being thrown in that water, right? Because not everyone gets thrown in the water, right? So the small team concept, the idea, if we don't mess with you, we don't love you kind of concept. And it's just always such a rewarding feeling to get thrown in the water or throw somebody in the water. Yeah.
That's great.
Congratulations, you're in the water.
At least it's always, fairly warm there, so it's not like it's a bad season to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's great.
Well, excellent, Hutch. Well, can you tell us a little bit about your, I guess, deciding factors as you're coming toward, the end of your career in the Marines and transitioning out to real estate?
Right.
Was there something in particular that made you go, well, multifamily, or was it just a scale at some point? Like you'd gotten familiar with the single family and started flipping, and then you started doing the math and the numbers make more sense on a larger scale, or what kind of led you to that path?
Yeah, absolutely. What really led me to the path, though, is that I had to make a decision, right? I had to make a decision. My wife and I, we like to mastermind a lot about our family's future, and what do we see ourselves doing to make sure that we maintain happiness on both levels, and also make sure that we're both growing at the same time, right? So one day, we sat down to talk about what the future looked like as I approach retirement. And she told me, she said, Shelon, she's the only one to call me Shelon. Everybody else call me Hutch. And there's a story behind that as well. Right. She said, Shelon, I'm concerned, right? Because as we know, if you network with any Marine, you know that the Marine Corps doesn't accept anything, accept or expect anything less than 100% commitment, right? So Athena understand that. And she said, Shelon, I'm concerned. I'm concerned that whenever you retire from the Marine Corps, there's a possibility you might get up on a Saturday morning, dress up in a uniform, and sit there in the living room, right? So like, man, okay, something has to change. So of course we had to dig deep to see exactly what I was passionate about, and it came down to real estate, right? So I was a real estate agent at one point. We really do enjoy the transition that our single family properties have gone through, and we kind of talk about it. Why don't we make this a career after my military career? So we kind of sit down and look to see what that looked like. And my dad told me about this guy Than Merrill, who was running I forgot what his organization called. and he teach people fortune builder. Tanbro is fortune builder. So he teaches people how to flip property with other people's money. And I was fascinated by that. I was like, man, you telling me that I can use other people's money to realize my dreams? So we started executing that. We're using other people's money to flip property. But he also teach people that, look, this is a gradual path. You can also invest in commercial building. You can also invest into storage, so on and so forth. So he kind of laid the groundwork of planting the seeds that, look, you can start here, but you don't have to finish here.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we started flipping, and when we decided to make real estate our business in 2017, we started flipping with the idea to transition to multifamily, because we understand that multifamily is where we're going to create the most predictable passive income without creating that a absolute full-time job. Yes, in the apartment complex as a syndicator, it requires work, but not as much work as, looking for the next deal and, flipping the next deal and day-to-day grind of ensuring that the project is properly managed, So we got introduced to multifamily in 2018 as I was flipping a property down in Pensacola. And we walked the 55 units, talked to the seller, and the seller gave us some good golden nuggets about, what it takes to run a multifamily. But he also told us that, look, Hutch, if you buy this property, here's some of the constraints that's going to affect your bottom line, right? There are some construction issues with this property that you will need to remediate. Mm-hmm. And when we're factoring all the costs, remediating those those construction issues, the deal no longer makes sense, so we walk away. But we got a taste of what was possible. And oh man, we met some folks and they said, Hutch, if you get a property on a contract, we will invest with you. And that blew my freaking mind, that you can build a relationship and people will actually entrust you to grow their nest egg, So when you get privy to information like that, you don't want to go back. And if you go back, that's a failure on your side. And look, it makes me start thinking bigger. And the more I think bigger, the more I realize how I can transform the Hutchinson bloodline. And not only that, it puts me in a position to be able to help others to invest in real estate, generate passive income, and they can invest their return, or they can save some on taxes, and they can create a passive income. And what they can do with it, what they get to do with that passive income is freaking transformational, because now they get to improve their lifestyle, or they can create a more predictable returns on their retirement fund. But what I really like about passive income is that it gives ourselves and our passive investor the ability or the luxury of investing in those causes that we feel so deeply about, whether it be, saving child trafficking, or, sending your kid or some children on a mission, or whatever you want to do. It provides you with the opportunity to do that if you generate enough passive income. So it's a fascinating place to be. And before the show, we were talking about, exposing my son to what is possible, and the abundance mindset, and everyone was just sharing with them. It's just a great place to be in the commercial real estate space.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was going to. So we always say it's we're not in the real estate business, we're in the relationship business, because it really is the people, and it's helping each other, and the abundance mindset. I think it's, amazing what you're doing, like with your family too, and the generational aspect of it, because, most people aren't introduced to that, right? They don't see the possibility. If you're into masterminds, I'm sure you're the concept of reticular activating system, that what you just get used to, and once your mind is open to it, you see the opportunities more places. And I think that's so incredibly important to, bring your kids in young to get to see what the world really can offer, versus being kind of just pigeonholed down a certain path.
That's absolutely correct, because look, we don't know what we don't know. I grew up on what used to be a slave plantation. There's nobody in that environment, right, who's going to teach me the things that I know now, right? So I call it, we have to leave the island sometime, because sometimes, at one point we will outgrow the information that our parents have taught us, or our small community. I call it getting off our island. So get out there, meet new people, get a shift in paradigm about what is possible in different things that you're fascinated fascinated about, right? Because sometimes our vision is bigger than everyone in our immediate circle, and we have to realize that. And once you realize that, there's no going back. You have to find the people that look like you, the people who are aspiring to improve their bloodline, the people who are aspiring to make this country a better place or this world a better place, right? And have the vehicle or have created the vehicle, or they're aware of the vehicle that can help you on that path. So I call it getting off the island.
That's a great expression. I like that a lot. Yeah. And again, just a couple nuggets there. Kiyosaki talks about how, people in this country, there's no financial education that happens to teach you, for example, in high school, how to balance a check, other than maybe balancing the checkbook. How do you grow wealth? There's nobody that teaches you that. And most kids learn from their parents, and their parents never learned from anybody except perhaps their parents. And unfortunately, you got to break that cycle. You got to get off the island. And I think that, certainly some of what Kiyosaki's done in terms of just opening people's minds to other potentials and leveraging, take the responsibility and own it and drive it yourself. You've got to really own things and to carry forward. So Hutch, as you really kind of started moving into real estate, initially, maybe very at the beginning, you pick where you want to kind of talk about this. Were there some obstacles you encountered along the way?
Yeah, so the biggest thing we noticed, the biggest obstacle that I've encountered so far is that early in the real estate journey, no one really, when people talk about real estate, I believe, I think Jerome Myers coined this phrase. We talk about romanticizing real estate, right? It's not all the time romantic. You get some bad relationship with the property sometimes, So I bought a condo, which was the first piece of real estate that I bought. And we within 6 months, we bought it for 161. Within 6 months, we sold it for 235. Right. So like, oh man, nice. This is amazing. Not to mention, we spent probably about a week in that property, and then I deployed. Athena moved back to Molokai with her family, and then we moved a resident in the house, for 5 months. And then within 6 months, we sold it. By the time I came back off deployment, we rolled that money into a living flip. Now this was right around 2005. And then when I got orders to leave Hawaii was in 2009. Right. And we all know what was going on at that time. So it cost me $55,000 to sell that property. Right. So I had to sell $30,000 in stocks and my savings, and took out a $20,000 loan from one of my credit union. And $5,500 were my commission, because I was a real estate agent at the time, selling my own property at the time, right? So it was right around the time that President Obama offered the first, it's like first homeowners credit, and also he extended the homeowners assistance program to service members who were moving in a down market. So I just happened it was perfect timing for me. So even though it cost me $55,000 to sell the house, right, I also got $43,000 of that back. So I was able to pay off that loan and put some money back into my portfolio. So that was amazing. So early in my life, I realized that, look, real estate is not always going to always going to make a profit, right? Because all markets are cyclical, and it's really important to understand what cycle that your market is in, before you actually purchase the property. So I believe that was the early setback that I needed to learn, and that was in a single family space. So now in the multifamily space, we surround ourselves with a lot of folks who, like Neil Bauer, who does a lot of statistics, a lot of data, right? So we learn from the people that is a lot more experience, right, to ensure that we are making the right decisions.
Absolutely. Like we said before, it's a team. When you get into multifamily, I don't know how involved you were in the initial, the condo and the single flips, if you did all the repairs and maintenance and rental and all that. But, as it gets bigger, you have to bring on, like you said, other team members that have a specialty. And we know Neil. We've known Neil for several years. Great guy. Very into, like you said, analytical and statistical, how he figures all that out. It's always a good conversation. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's definitely the who. The book I just read, I just got back from Augusta, Georgia, where we got some property down there, and I was reading the who, not how, right, on the plane. I actually read it down once, and I was coming back, reading it again and taking some notes, right, and the information that Neil Bauer puts out, it's absolutely important for any aspiring syndicator to listen to the things that you're saying, and then, use that as foundation to expand on whenever you do your research in a specific market to ensure that you're making the right decision. But at least, he's a who to tell you, here are some things that you want to you should be concerned about, right? And you do a lot of webinar that you can hop on and ask questions, to help you to get a baseline understanding, and then you can expand your research from there on.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Hutch, what was one of your first victories in your new career? I mean, you talked about the condo was kind of mixed. Some in the market turned down. You had to sell as far as deployment. What was, if you look back, what was one of the first thing that would you consider a victory in the new path?
Yeah, so I think that one of the biggest victory is me thinking bigger than my current performance and my current capability, right? So just like the Marine Corps, we train to our full potential, but then we employ our Marines to the capability, right? So we always have to think really, really big, because once you get into a situation, you have to resort back to your training. And if you train mediocre, or you train to mediocrity, then your performance will be mediocre, right? So one of the things that I learned from the Marine Corps is to think big. So when I transitioned to multifamily, or when I was considering transition to multifamily, Athena and we sat down and we said, okay, let's set a goal to acquire 100 units apartment complex in the next 12 months, whether it be lead sponsorship or co-sponsorship. We wanted 100 units. Now, in the first year in 2019, we co-sponsored a 55 unit in Spartanburg, South Carolina, right? Mm-hmm. And, just looking back, I believe that was a major win, because, I think a lot of folks, whenever they go from a single family to the multifamily space, they look for a duplex, triplex, fourplex, or maybe a 10 or 20 units, right? But I believe 100 units is a bigger goal to fall short of than a 5 or 10 unit, right? Because if I set it to 10 unit, I probably would have acquired 5 units, right? So I think we should definitely think big. So with that, we set a goal for 100 units. I needed to find a better way to underwrite property, and Athena encouraged me to get off the island and go to a conference out in Colorado. I met my business partner there, along with a few other partners that we have done several transactions over the years. Actually, 4 transactions over the past couple of years. But it was that initial thinking big, setting that goal, I believe was where the initial win started.
Oh, that's
setting
great.
The goals. Yes.
Yeah. I love that. Think big. And again, you may not hit the goal, but you're going to hit a lot higher than if you think small. Right? Absolutely. I had an investor that I'd met, I had just done I think I probably had, I had probably a one single family rental that we had purchased by that point. And then I said, I'm going to apartments. And at the time, Bill and I were looking at a unit that was probably around 100 units or so. And she kind of said to me, huh? Are you crazy? Are you going to go from 1 to 100? What? And I'm like, wait a minute. Don't put your limiting beliefs on me. That's your deal, not mine. So anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. So Hutch, in your real estate world, is there a humorous story you can share? Something funny along the way?
Oh, man. I haven't come across anything too funny yet, but my business partner would tell you, Dr. Jones, he owns and operated 20 units in Enterprise, Alabama, and he worked in an environment where a lot of low income in those areas, right? And sometimes you have people that move out in the middle of the night and don't tell you nothing, and a week later, doing your check, you find out that the unit is vacant, right? So one of the things that we talk about when we talk to investors, active or passive investor, is if you have a unit that is vacant for any period of time, never open the freaking refrigerator. Never open the refrigerator, right? So we were walking the 104 units that we purchased in Augusta, Georgia, back in February. We were walking a few days ago, and the exact same thing happened. But Heath and I, we got on the scene about an hour and a half after a couple of the teams went through that unit, and they was telling us about it. It was like, wait a minute. Did somebody open the freaking refrigerator? Like, yep, somebody opened the refrigerator. So if you have a unit that is vacant for a while, you might want to think twice about opening the refrigerator, because that smell does not go away for a while, both in your nostril and in that unit.
Right. It sounds like good advice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, either that or walk around with a can of Vicks, jar of Vicks Vapor Rub and
preparation, right?
Yeah. Well, where are you today in your journey? You said in the last year, I believe you said you did part of 4 syndications. And so where are you today, and what are you looking to achieve moving forward?
Yeah. So one of the cool things about retiring from the Marine Corps after 20 plus years is that you get a retirement check, right? So that serves as a passive income for a lot of us retirees. So I have this vision of my I call my rat race number is a number that I need to be able to maintain my lifestyle, but also be able to put away, a couple grand per month to be able to invest in a syndication maybe every 10 months or so, right? So that's kind of the path that we're on right now for the next 24 months, but where we are right now, so far we have co-sponsored over 350 units in the Southeast, in South Carolina, and also in Augusta, Georgia. And then Heath own and operate an additional 20 in Enterprise, Alabama. So what we call it right now at H Square Capital, we're on a march to 1,000 doors. Right. And one of the cool things that we're doing with the March to 1,000 doors with that mission is up until 1,000 doors, we're donating 10% of all of our H Square Capital acquisition fees to nonprofit organizations that benefit our veterans. Right. So we see a time where we get to write a 6-figure check to a nonprofit organization, or we might create a nonprofit organization to assist veterans who live in our apartment complexes, to where we can offset their rent, and it should not affect it will not affect our investors' return, because the rent will be paid for. These veterans will be properly vetted to ensure that they're on a path to get into to a better future for themselves and their family. So, we focus on the March to 1,000 doors, but also Heath have a 24 months plan as well. So we have similar path to transition full-time to multi-family, but also we need to increase our cash flow to our rat race number. So that's where we are now.
It's great. And worthy goals. Absolutely. Yes, we believe the same thing on Park Capital Partners, that Richard and I started a foundation end of last year too, to again give back and make a difference. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's something we believe strongly in, and that is giving back. And partly, Bill and I run 2 monthly meetings. We also do this podcast to help educate others about how to learn and how to move forward and do. And and again, listen, people go into whatever career path they go for whatever reason, and and obviously most of that is a W-2 job, and that's fine. Do it well, do it successfully, take care of your family. But at the same point in time, always be looking forward to the future in terms of just thinking ahead. Where do you really want to get to? And certainly we believe strongly that the path of real estate and entrepreneurship is something super important to us. And again, like we talked about earlier, I want to instill, kind of expose our kids to that kind of concept, so that they can, really control their own destiny down the road.
Right, because I think one of the things we noticed that when you amass a certain amount of wealth, second to third, by the fourth generation is usually gone. Right. It's so that's one of the reasons why I believe that when we talk about generational wealth in real estate, if we're not bringing our children at an early age to actually learn the concept, learn the business plan, and not only learn the business, but talk about the vision that you have for your bloodline, for the family, for several generations to come, right? So this information is passed down. So it's never going to be generational wealth if the future generation is not taught about what the vision is for the future of the bloodline. So definitely bring your family in, bring them in early, 10, 12, 13 years old, doesn't really matter. just planting seed, right? I was interviewing Alina Trigger for a podcast, and our favorite quote is, "I am in the shade today because someone a long time ago planted a seed." So we continue to plant seed just like you, Bill, and Richard do. Every single podcast episode that you do, you are planting a seed in somebody's mind of what is possible through your education platform. So keep planting seed. So when they take the seed, they can pour the water on it. Grow into a big oak tree, so somebody can rest in the shade later, whether it's through their bloodline or they plant the seed with somebody else.
Yeah, that's great. And again, Hutch, you kind of already answered our next question, talking about just how you guys do work to give back, and that's great that you're choosing to donate part of your proceeds and your future plans about potentially helping veterans. I mean, again, as Bill mentioned, we created a nonprofit foundation at 506C that we actually donate to one of 15 different charities that are already existing, and we let the investor pick. So when an investor invests with us, we honor them by making a donation on their behalf to one of those charities that they pick. And we really tried to be thoughtful about where we, the different type of charities we put on the list. Some of it is, animal rights. Some of it is, supporting veterans through Wounded Warriors. Some of it is, try to end, sex trafficking through Underground Railroad. And, again, there's so many worthy causes out there. And again, we believe it's so important just to give back, wealth mindset, abundance mindset. We have done well, and we believe it's our responsibility to help give back to others. So
I do like that idea of giving the investor an opportunity to, even though it's Aceway Capital's acquisition fee, I think we'll have more buy-in and also, more feeling of the impact investing mindset from our investors as well, by giving them an opportunity to make a recommendation for some nonprofit organization of their choice. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Appreciate you planting the seed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what's something you've recently implemented in your business to help you grow and scale? Is there something?
Right. Yeah. So I implemented a who. Well, I didn't really implement a who. My wife saw a lot of stuff that we was doing. Just came back from the Best Ever conference, and there's so much information that I need to process and put into work, right? And she saw that I was getting a little bit overwhelmed, waking up early morning, going to sleep late at night, because it takes a lot, right? And she knew I was going to read the book, the Who Not How, and she said, I could be a who for you, right? I'm like, you already have a lot on your plate. You make this family work, right? And she's like, no, I'm serious. There's a lot of things that I can do. And I just got back from Augusta, and she planned every single thing to the T, right? Rent a car, airplanes, hotel, right? Planning different meetings, who I need to see and what time I got to meet with them. And it was freaking amazing, right? And I just came back from a 2-day trip, and it probably was one of the most successful trips that I went on. Met up with contractors, different investors, and walk different properties and look at all of investments over there. And it was just phenomenal seeing what was possible by her putting everything. So going forward, she will be she will be the person that I trust with all my information, what I need to do, where I need to do, and she will definitely organize it. So, sometime your who to propel your career forward or your business forward might be a lot closer than you think, right? Because the people that we care about, they want to see us successful as well, So I'm grateful, appreciative Athena. We've been married for 20 years, so she's seen me at my low, my highest, and she know what makes me tick. She know what makes me successful. She know how I work, and it's going to be amazing going forward.
That's great. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, good deal. So, Hutch, what advice would you give somebody who is considering making a path change?
Making
a path change, changing what they do, changing careers, moving in a new direction.
Right. So there's a book that I read a long time ago. I don't believe I finished this book, but I read it a couple of chapters, and it was keep repeating the same thing over and over. But what I took away from the book is a book called Killing Sacred Cows, right? And one of the things they talk about is find what you're passionate about and get people to pay you to do that, right? My youngest, he's an artist, and he just draw because it centers him, it calms him down, and he just loves drawing, right? So I believe he's 13 now. I believe that where he is right now, right? I'm in the process of transitioning, from full-on parenting to more of a mentor, right? Mm-hmm. So I see that he's passionate about art. He's also passionate about volleyball, right? How can I mentor him to be able to get paid to do what he really do love and enjoy, right? So I believe whether it's real estate, whether it's computer programming, whatever that is, whatever your passion is, that's what you need to do, right? But also to your point, Richard, earlier, there need to be an end goal, right? We have to do what Stephen Covey said and begin with the end in mind, right? We're going to be doing this passion, right? But at what point will you step back and really enjoy life, or create a vehicle that allow you to enjoy the abundance that this world have to offer while you continue on your passion? And we do believe that passive income through real estate and different ventures, but we prefer real estate, right, is definitely the way to go, right, to create a passive income. So find something you're passionate about and get people to pay you to fulfill that passion, or to do that passion, right? But definitely create a vehicle that allow you to enjoy life right before it's too late, because we don't have as much time as we think we do.
That's great, Hutch. Well, Hutch, what's the best way for listeners to reach out and have a conversation with you and find out more about what you're doing?
Absolutely. So LinkedIn is my preferred place of communicating. I like LinkedIn because the people that attract there are very purposeful about their relationship, and I don't have the time or inclination for wasting my time or wasting people's time, right? So we find that LinkedIn is a great place. But if you want to see what we're doing, you can go to h2capital.com and sign up on one of our investor application link, and myself or Dr. Jones will reach out to you. We also run a podcast. It's the Multifamily Real Estate Experiment podcast, where every episode we interview an expert in the multifamily field, right? And each topic we dissect it down to the T to help our listeners to get a better understanding of the topic, whether it's be property management, mindset, syndication lawyers, insurance, all these topics we dive deep into. So whether you're a passive investor or active investor, every single episode is important to you to understand the investment requirements for multifamily syndication.
That's great. And we'll include links to all that below in the show notes to make that easier. Well, Hutch, we would love to thank you for being on the Road Less Traveled show. It's been a great conversation, and we'd like to wish you continued success. And again, thank you for your service.
Greatly appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Bill and Richard.
Hutch, thanks for being on. We really appreciate it. We'd also like to thank our show sponsor, Park Capital Partners, that sponsors the show. Please, folks, remember that we have the Park Capital Value Add Fund, which is a 501c3 accredited investor value add fund that's open today. Please join us. If you'd like to hear more about it, please contact us. We also, again, have the Park Capital Partners Foundation, where, again, one of the vehicles that Bill and I give back through. So again, certainly want to thank Hutch for being on today. And remember, folks, the road less traveled may be calling you. We recommend that you listen and take action. Thanks for joining.